Good morning, Madison Hills. What a great way to start a service, right? Come on, Kyra, we're so proud of you. Welcome to the kingdom. Fantastic. So, show of hands, you don't have to blurt it out or anything, but do you like any hole-in-the-wall restaurants? You know, any of those places just like really far out there, and it's like you go in, it's like, why am I eating here? Then you eat the food and it's really good. So we've got one, I think it's closed now though, unfortunately. It's called Campanello's. Anybody heard of this? It was in Cincinnati, right off exit 5, across the street, basically across the street from the Duke Energy Center. It's one of these little hole in the walls. We found this by accident in 2011. I remember the year, I remember the month. It was October. I remember finding this spot, just happened chance. We go in, let me tell you a little bit about this place. You can see it on the corner here. The seating capacity, 17. Okay, 17 people. When you're walking to your table, you hear this sound. It goes, and you realize that the floors, they haven't been swept or mopped or cleaned since the place opened, right? It's just grimy. I don't know what it was about this particular spot, but we were always met. So I'm painting a good picture for it, right? The guy at the front who was like the server, full tuxedo, kid you not. Super eclectic, just a weird environment, but the best Italian food you'll ever eat. Here's a picture of Christian. Look at that little fella just licking the bowl clean. It was so good, just licking it clean. Loves that place, right? So thinking about this morning's sermon, I just started thinking about Campanello's, and I remember it had seating capacity 17. Grimy, sticky floors. Weird guy at the door in a tux. But it had something. It had some intangibles. It's like you can't put your finger on it, but there's something special about this place. I feel the same way about Madison Hills. There's an intangible here, and we're going to name it in just a moment. But there's an intangible that happens here at Madison Hills that I absolutely love. So check these pictures out. I had a video, it wasn't working, but this is last Sunday after service. But this is around 11:50. Service was over at around 11:30, 11:35 last week. This is after 10, 15 people had left this group. And I realized they're not leaving. Actually, Judah England had to come back to the back because there's going to be choir practice, come back to the door and politely close the door and say, hey, everybody out there, you need to go ahead and go on. This is still happening, like people hanging around just in conversation, connecting with one another, building into one another. There's this intangible that is happening here. We're going to name it, but it's special. And it doesn't matter the seating capacity. It doesn't matter the layout of the building. It doesn't matter how people are dressed. There's something here, and it's special. We're actually going to have Mike Ferris. He's going to come up and share a little bit with us. And I want you to know how important this is. This is so important, this intangible that we have going on. It's so important because when you read stats and when you look at culture and the overarching theme of society, the world of church and the world of men often clash. So this intangible that we have fits right into what Mike is going to share with us.
You've never had me up here before, so you don't know what you're in for.
My fingers are crossed.
Yeah, last time I was on the stage, I was boondock. All right, so several years ago, probably 9 or 10 years ago, born out of a poker game at my little apartment in basically the little kitchen nook, me and 3 other guys were hanging out, and we were doing a little poker game, and each of us, I invited these guys to come over because I knew that, occasionally we'd like to have a beer with dinner or something like that, or a bourbon, and I said, why don't y'all come over and let's have a poker game, we have a couple beers, and they're like, cool. And one of the guys around the table said, wouldn't it be cool if we could do a Bible study like this? And we all were like, yeah, and we kind of laughed it off and stuff. And then I got to thinking, why not? So I go to Marty out there in the foyer thing, and I said, I got an idea for a men's ministry thing, and I want to run it by you. And he says, you can do whatever you want. I trust you. I said, yeah, you better wait. You better hold on a second. So I want to start a men's ministry, and this is what I want to do. And we want to be able to, share in a beverage and hang out and just wherever it goes. And we had our first meeting out in the driveway because I think it was 12 of us that were there wouldn't fit in my little living room area. So we were in bag chairs out in the driveway, and you knew that there was something, that intangible was there that night. And then that Sunday morning afterwards, guys come up to me and they were like, that was amazing. And then guys would invite other guys. And we had to, there were times we had to figure out where we were going to meet. And because places weren't big enough, especially in the winter. So we had to figure out places to meet. The bonds that grew out of this, call it men's ministry, was unbelievable. We'd have a guy who would post. We had this little group me page that we'd all communicate on. He'd post and say, "Guys, I need some prayer. Heading to the ER." I'd go in and tell Heather, "Hey, so and so's heading to the ER. I need to go to the hospital." And this would be 11:30 at night on a Saturday night or a Sunday night or something. I wouldn't be the first one there. I would see the message, go tell Heather, "I need to go to the hospital." We'd leave, go, and we weren't the first ones there. There were already guys there. And guys would just meet with one another. There was something special about that group. When Heather had her stroke, family wasn't the first phone call I made. I called Bob Jones. I said, "Get the elders together. We need to pray." But that was the type of ministry it is. To this day, if someone posts on that little group, even though we haven't been meeting in a while, if someone posts on that group, "Hey, I need prayer. I got a rough week coming up." Praying now. Got you, brother. Got your back. You need anything? If someone needed a tool, they could post on that group. And somebody probably had it and knew how to use it. Usually it was Bob Jones who had the tool. So he's got every tool known to man. He doesn't know how to use all of them, but he has all of them. But there was something about that ministry and that group of guys that became it grew organically. It was something that we didn't envision. So much so that I'd get word that some of their wives wanted to start some of the same kind of thing. And at first I was thinking, "Oh yeah, they want a women wine and Wednesdays or something like that." In hindsight, years later, I don't think that's what it was. I think they wanted what they saw in their husbands. And that intangible that you're talking about is just over the top. We're starting it back. January the 10th is our first meeting. So if you're a guy that you just want to hang out with some other guys, build some relationships, we do a devotion, we do prayer, but it's just, I don't even know if we could recreate what we had. But if it does, it's something you're going to be a part of. So.
Fantastic. Awesome. So this intangible we're talking about, I want you to know that it's not evangelism. It is not preaching. It's not discipleship. And it has a goal, and the goal is not to save. The goal of this intangible is actually to serve. And it's not a super manly word, but it's a word that has its place in Scripture for every single one of us. And it's called hospitality. Hospitality. That's the theme of this morning's sermon. Hospitality. Hospitality is wrapped up in your relationship with people you don't know yet. Maybe you've seen them. Maybe you know about them. Maybe you know their name, but to you, they're a stranger. Hospitality is wrapped up in your relationship with strangers. And we're going to, in a moment, dip back into the Old Testament to a book called Genesis 18. If you'd like to follow along in your Bible, you can go ahead and open it. If not, we got the words on the screen here in just a moment. But I want you to know hospitality is a really big deal. In the ancient world, if hospitality didn't exist, then some people would have literally died. Hospitality was critical. It was a method of survival for travelers in a rough and rugged land. We've all heard the horror stories of Sodom and Gomorrah, but do you know one of their most prevalent sins? Inhospitality. Instead of actually helping the strangers, they were harmful to strangers that come into their cities. A hospitality was a way of God's people in the Old Testament, the nation of Israel, living in covenant with her God. They were foreigners, strangers in a foreign land in Egypt. And God dealt gracious and mercy and filled them with mercy. He was the one who provided for them. So it was a way that they were to be in covenant with God so that they in turn would bless the strangers that came their way. This is a really big deal. Actually, in the New Testament, listen to some of these words. In the New Testament, we've got time and time again where the text will tell us, be eager to show hospitality, or show hospitality without grumbling. In other words, it's to be a part of your life. And when you read the passages in the New Testament that talk about church leadership, multiple times you read the phrase, an elder or an overseer, a church leader must be hospitable. This is a really big deal in the church, and it's an intangible. It's hard to identify what it really looks like, but when you see it, you know it. When you walk into a room, regardless of how sticky the floor is, regardless of how people are dressed, regardless of how many people are in the room or allowed to be in the room, something is there and it's special and you feel it, something's happening. Even when you walk through the doors and you're a stranger, there's something about this place. So hospitality is a real big deal. When we dip back into Genesis 18, commentators will agree that this is one of the markers, if not the poster story of hospitality. It all starts here. When you read throughout the Bible, you see that all frames of references of hospitality, they kind of flow from this text. So we're going to look at three parts of this narrative. It's a weird story of Abraham, and it's wrapped up in this weird dynamic where he meets three guys, and right off the bat, you're going to see, and the author is so good for this, you're going to see just how important hospitality is. When you and I engage hospitality, a lot of times we're engaging a stranger, but what we overlook is that God is involved in the mix. So there's a few intangibles about hospitality. And the first one is simply this. You are to go, but you are to go first. And that is a key to hospitality. You go first, okay? But before we get there, notice this. This is Genesis 18, verse 1. So the Lord appeared to Abraham while he was sitting at the entrance to his tent. So get this. This is so important. I think the author is very strategic in showing us how God is involved in these moments. So the Lord appeared to Abraham. The Lord appeared to Abraham while he was sitting in the heat of the day at his tent. The very next sentence, Abraham looked up and he saw three men standing by. Now, if you've got a study Bible that has comments in it, you'll probably have the author notating this, and commentators are in a consensus with the idea that how God appeared to Abraham was through these three men. Abraham didn't necessarily see God in his shape or form. God appeared to Abraham through these three men. Now, you may be unfamiliar with this verse, but if you've been around church for a while, maybe you've heard a sermon or a pastor reference this. If not, this is a big deal. When we fast forward into the New Testament, we've got a New Testament book called Hebrews, chapter 13, verse 2. Notice this language that kind of corroborates what commentators would say. Do not forget to show hospitality to strangers. By doing so, some people have actually shown hospitality to angels without even knowing it. So right off the bat, this idea of hospitality wrapped up in this kind of weird story with Abraham shows us that God is often in the mix. When you and I engage strangers, God is often in the mix, and he may be doing something that you and I are totally unaware of. That's why it's critical that we engage this intangible. So the first intangible I already showed you, it is go first. So notice what Abraham does. So he sees these three guys, and here's what he does. Very next verse. When he saw them, he hurried from the entrance of his tent, and he hurried to meet them. In other words, he didn't wait for them to fully arrive. He didn't wait for them to come to him. He took the initiative. He went first. He reached out to them. He made the first move. Now, pastoral question here. If there's somebody on your relational radar, and if there is, you already know who that is. That person that's on your relational radar, are you waiting on them to make a move? If you are, they may not make it. It may require you taking the initiative, you sending the text, you making the call, you sending an email, which is becoming dated forms of communication. You going across the table, across the room, you reaching out, you inviting them over for a cup of coffee, you making the arrangements. This may be on you. And if you take that first step, God just may show up in a very powerful way. Some time ago, Christian and I, we were in this habit. He was doing some writing, I was doing some writing. So we went to this coffee shop about 5 days a week. We sat at the same table in the same chairs every day for about 4 or 5 hours, just pounding away on our laptops, writing some stuff out. And we noticed one day that there was this guy sitting at a table lining the wall of this coffee shop. And he was from another country. And his language, native language, he was fluent in. His English, broken. But we heard him on his phone and he was talking a little loud and he was having some car trouble and he couldn't get things sorted out. So Christian and I decided, you know what? Let's see if we can help. So we started engaging this guy, and I won't bore you with all the details, but it turned into a very interesting, real kind of working friendship. And I tell you that story because a couple of days ago, I was going through a book that I haven't read for a while, that I was reading when Christian and I were pounding on our keyboards, and I found this note, and it was super cool because we got word that this guy was leaving town. He had his car sorted out. He was leaving town, and Christian and I decided to do something for him. So we created this little gift, and we left it for him. We weren't going to be able to be at this coffee shop, but we knew when he was going to be there, when he was going to be leaving. So we left it with one of the baristas. He gave it to him. So we came in the next day, and he had left this note for us, and I won't give you the details of what's inside, but it was so cool to touch base with someone that we didn't know. And if we hadn't been at that coffee shop, we wouldn't have known this individual ever existed. But the words that he wrote in there and the interactions that he and I had along with Christian, it was just beautiful. And there were a couple of examples of that just flood my mind right now that I remember. God was so in that. And it wasn't to save anyone, but it was to serve someone. And when you're hospitable, when you've got that intangible, you're not just trying to save somebody. You're trying to serve somebody. Well, the text goes on. This is the second intangible. The second intangible is that you go first and you go to serve. So notice what the story goes on. Next verse. So Abraham said, okay, you three guys, I've got you. Let a little water be brought. Then you all wash your feet. You rest under this tree. Let me get you something to eat so you can be refreshed. And then you go on your way. That's it. It's as simple as that. You've got a need. I can meet that need. Let's take care of it. You wash your feet. You rest. I'll get you some food. You're replenished. Then you go on. Another pastoral question for you. What can you provide? Maybe it's not this rundown, but the individual or individuals on your relational radar. What can you provide? Some time ago, but let me check in. Let me check in with this real quick. Looking at this picture. Okay, all right, I don't want to be divisive, but we're just a few days away from Thanksgiving, right? All right, by a show of hands, who has their tree up? Okay, all right. By a show of hands, who intentionally does not have their tree up? Okay, so we're a little split. Some time ago, kind of in the warmer weather months, Ricky and Allison and Michelle and I, we went out, and I don't want to show you a picture. I'm saving that picture for another sermon, actually. But we went on this rail card ride, and we start talking, and Ricky and I are in the back, and Allison and Michelle are up front, and we start talking about Christmas. And apparently, Ricky is not interested in putting a tree up until after Thanksgiving. Well, Michelle and I, we're all about November 1st, boom, it's game on, all right? It's Christmas. November 1st is Christmas, and you work Thanksgiving into the Christmas season. It's not its own thing, okay? That's how we operate. So sometime after that, we have a few funny texts, and I get this on Saturday, November 1st at 1:55 p.m., and it's a picture of Ricky in his living room with this gigantic Clark Griswold style tree. And it's addressed to me and Michelle, and it simply says, and there's no punctuation, just a few words, but you can just read the sass. Hope you all are happy. Like, okay, all right, yeah, you got it. Well, the Christmas season can be divisive, who puts it up, who doesn't, all that. I've been listening to Mixmas since November 1st. I mean, that's all I listen to during this season. But anyway, I'm in the same coffee shop just a couple of weeks ago, same coffee shop. And there's something going on at the end of the counter. And I hear some grumbling. I'm unsure what's actually happening, but I know there's this new barista. She's been there for about a week, and we try to build into the baristas there to really get to know them and create some community there with them. So she's been there about a week, just learning the ins and outs of how to do her job and do it really well. And there's a disgruntled customer at the end because they're removing all these chalkboard style menus to digital. And in doing so, they're making it their holiday menu, which is well before Thanksgiving. So all I can make out is that he's fussing about this, but he's fussing toward her. And I'm just watching her shoulders start to sag. Like her world is crumbling in this moment. And when I get the awareness of what's happening, he's got his drink and he leaves. And then she walks back toward the area where she's going to fix a sandwich for someone. And I see that she's still slumped over. So I go over to her and I'm like, hey, listen, everybody needs somebody to say that person was a jerk. So I just want you to know that guy right there means nothing to you. You may never see him again. He's a jerk. So just forget about it. And how about a high five? You ever do a high five with somebody? That's a powerful moment right there, okay? Incorporate that into your relationships, a high five. So I give this lady a high five, and she's like, okay, thank you so much for that. So some time goes by, I switch tables, and I sit at this kind of chair that's cushiony, and I'm sitting there, and it's dead in the store now. And she comes over to the edge of the counter, and she's like, hey, can I get you a free refill? And I know she's just trying to be nice, right? And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm covered right now. And I go back to work, and I'm like, wait a minute. David, you know one of your personal policies is that anytime somebody offers you something, you accept it because you provide an opportunity for people to express gratitude. That's what you do, David. That's hospitality in action. What about you? What can you provide? Maybe it's not an opportunity for people to be filled with gratitude or express that. Maybe it's not this rundown from Abraham, but you, in your life, the way you operate, how you're wired, your resources, where you live, how you interact with people, what can you provide? Hospitality is all about going first, and it's going first to serve. It's not about saving. It's about serving. Third intangible is that there's this sense of urgency in this. And we're going to see this with Abraham. So you go now. You go now. You go first. You go to serve. And you go now. Bella had this wave of generosity just splash over her a few weeks ago, and she missed it. She gave me permission to share this story, and she missed it. So later on, I coached her up a little bit, and I was like, Bella, listen, I'm your dad, so I've been around the world for a long time. And I'm at that age where Bella likes to start making fun of my age, okay? She likes to start doing that, and any new gray hair that I get, she sees it. Like, how do you see the new ones, right? So she's pointing them out and all this stuff. So anyway, we're having this great conversation, and I'm like, okay, listen, Bella, I've been around for a long time, and here's something I've never, ever regretted. When I have that wave of generosity where I just want to do something for somebody, or it hits me, I could make this move, and it would really mean the world to that person. It's so small to me, but it would mean the world to that individual. I make it. If at all possible, you do it, and you do it now, because I've never, ever regretted one of those moments. Instead of having regret, I look back and I can remember those moments where I was able to do something for someone and how it blessed them. So do it now, okay? Go now. So here's what Abraham does. He sees these guys. He's like, hey, we get the water. Let me wash your feet, all this stuff. So Abraham, and listen how fast this is. So Abraham hurried into the tent. Like, this is urgent for him. He wants to do something for these people, and he knows he needs to do it now. It's going to make a world of difference for them. He says, quick. Everybody, look how important this is. Get the finest flour, knead it, and bake some bread. Next verse. Then he ran to the herd, and he selected a choice tender calf and gave it to a servant who hurried to prepare it. It's like, let's get this moving. Don't miss an opportunity to do this good thing you know you need to be doing, because if you're wrapped up in hospitality, you know, chances are God is in this moment and you don't want to miss it. Now, that word quick, when Abraham rushes into the tent and he says, quick, quick, that word quick can mean three different things. It can mean to hurry, like, let's get this going. It can mean promptly, but it can also mean to flow easily. I love that definition, to flow easily. In other words, I get the impression that when you have this sense of urgency to do something you know you should do for someone, you've got that wave of generosity that comes your way. You're feeling very hospitable. You know you should make this move. Allow it to flow into your life easily. Make hospitality part of your rhythm. Don't be so structured that you miss out on these special moments that God is involved in. So that person who's on your relational radar, how could it flow easily for you to be hospitable to that stranger? This is the intangible that we have here at Madison Hills. Some of our final comments that people submitted about why they love this church. Listen to this. And if this is your first Sunday here at Madison Hills, this is our last sermon in a series called I Love My Church. But I want you to know that we've said this every Sunday. We're not patting ourselves on the back. Instead, we're elevating what God is doing here so that we can identify it, hold on to it, and join what he's doing, not creating our own little kingdom. So listen to this. These are great. I love Madison Hills because of the smiles you get, the love you feel each time you walk through those doors. You just know it's genuine. As the pastor here, I'm so proud of that comment because we have people, first-time guests, are literally strangers to us. So that someone said, when you walk through those doors, you know this is genuine, this community. There's something about this place. Can't put my finger on it yet, but there's something about it. Listen to this comment. It's become my home away from home, dash, my family. Someone who wasn't part of this group. Someone who is a stranger to Madison Hills. My family. Listen to this comment. I love Madison Hills. It is the first place that truly felt like home while we were between churches. We were welcomed with open arms, and we saw the devotion given to us to help change our lives together. That's hospitality. That's that intangible emotion. We have it here in Madison Hills. Now, listen to this. This is beautiful. I decided to come and see what this was all about. And I can tell you, the moment we walked through the front door, I knew we were home. That was someone who was a stranger to this place. I decided to come and see what this was all about, and I can tell you, the moment we walked through the front door, I knew we were home. Over the past 3 years, I have never felt more loved. Having people reach out who will text me to see how everything is going. I've not been to a church where everyone is truly welcomed. Last one. This is a church where I've always felt welcomed and not judged. I like the down-to-earth, comfortable feeling of the whole church community. Come as you are is taken seriously. Parenthetical note, I hate dressing up, LOL. We're in a good spot, okay? We like jeans here. So everyone is invited to join in all of the events and the moving parts of the church. And listen to this. If you don't know how you fit, this church will help you find your fit. The people, irreplaceable. Let me read that one more time because that's about you. The people, you, irreplaceable. There was someone who wasn't part of this place who is now part of this place saying you, irreplaceable. Everyone has always made me feel welcomed. I know how important it is to be remembered. And so many people remember my name. That's amazing. As your pastor, those comments are why I love Madison Hills. There's this intangible that is here, and we want to hold on to that. We want to keep moving in the spirit of hospitality.